The comeback of the BSA Gold Star gathered so much attention when it was launched. However, the buzz around this great-looking motorcycle slowly faded away. What went wrong? I think that's a little unfair because this is a motorcycle I consider seriously misunderstood. I dug deeper and found that a lot of criticism actually comes from motorcycle purists. In this video, I'll share their biggest complaint and explain to you why I disagree. Let's start from the very beginning. Back in 1937, legendary racer Wal Handley came out of retirement and rode a factory BSA Empire Star, a standard production motorcycle at the time, to a lap speed of over 160 km per hour, earning a prestigious Gold Star award by the British Motorcycle Racing Club. That achievement inspired BSA to create a successor bike, and in 1938, the BSA Gold Star was born. By the mid-1950s, the Gold Star had earned a reputation as one of the fastest production motorcycles on the market. It was essentially the sport bike of its era. That reputation for speed and performance stayed with the Gold Star until production ended in 1963. So it's fair to say that back then, a BSA Gold Star wasn't built for relaxed Sunday rides. The name Gold Star was synonymous with performance. But, and this is important, that was then. Fast forward to 2016, the Mahindra Group bought the BSA brand, and with it, the Gold Star name. However, many purists argue that only the name has returned. According to them, the new Gold Star has little connection to the original bike's heritage, philosophy, or purpose. Mahindra bought the rights to the brand and built a motorcycle that, in their view, lacks the spirit of the old racing-inspired Gold Star.
These were the fastest, most powerful motorcycles that you could buy, and they were legendary for that reason. They were also beautiful and timelessly styled, which in many ways is really the point. But most of that is lost when a brand either brings back an old legendary model, or in the case of BSA with their new model, basically hijacking that legendary name altogether. And that's essentially my problem. It all comes across as rather disingenuous and hypocritical, especially when brands try to talk about these motorcycles as being so authentic and timeless and pointing to the heritage, when in cases like this, they're essentially just buying the name and trying to get sales, and really just sort of jump on a trend.
The new BSA Gold Star is a retro classic powered by a single-cylinder engine producing around 45 horsepower and 55 Newton meters of torque. Now, compare that to a modern sport or naked bike of similar displacement, such as the Kawasaki Z650, which can produce around 65 horsepower and 65 Newton meters of torque. A motorcycle that used to dominate the roads is now slower than a typical sport bike. Critics say they've been misled, but I don't think that's the case here. I think this is just a case of misplaced expectations. Here's why. The role of a retro classic motorcycle is to be a retro classic. It's designed to capture the look, character, and feel of older machines, not to compete with modern sport bikes. Yes, the original Gold Star was built around speed and performance, but I think the philosophy behind the new Gold Star is different. Its goal is not to be the fastest bike in its class. Its goal is to give riders a taste of the past while offering the reliability and convenience of a modern motorcycle. Think about it this way. If Mahindra had truly followed the original racing philosophy of the old Gold Star, they wouldn't have built a retro classic at all. They would have built a modern, high-performance sport bike. The fact that they chose a retro platform tells us exactly what direction they wanted to take. On the flip side, maybe the purists are right. Perhaps it's the reuse of the Gold Star name itself that's causing all the confusion, and in extreme cases, the hatred. I think Mahindra was right to bring back the BSA brand, but maybe using the Gold Star name created expectations that the bike was never intended to meet. Perhaps a different model name, something that paid homage to the Gold Star rather than directly reviving it, would have made the bike easier for people to accept. The legend began with the Empire Star, and then it was the Gold Star. Why not make it the Classic Star? Because then, the message would have been clear. This isn't the old Gold Star reborn. It's a simple but modern motorcycle designed to give you the experience of riding a classic without the drawbacks of owning a vintage machine. Most of you know that I'm very happy with my Victorino, but it does have a few weaknesses. When riding with a passenger, it feels a bit sluggish, the seat is on the short side, and the steering can get a little twitchy at low speeds. I'm not about to replace my Victorino, but I thought, okay, what if I had to? What will be my hypothetical option? Since I'm a sucker for retro motorcycles, I found myself at Kustom Kulture to check out the resurrected BSA Gold Star. At first glance, the Gold Star doesn't look as aggressive as the Victorino, but it's beautiful in its own way. And since my main concern was riding with a passenger, I brought one of my sons along for the test. At 5'6", I can get almost both feet flat on the ground. Sure, experienced riders can manage with just one foot, but here in the Philippines, we spend more time crawling through traffic jams than cruising through open roads. When you're stuck in what feels more like a parking lot than a highway, being able to plant both feet on the ground is less tiring and gives you more confidence, especially with a passenger on board. Then, there's the weight. If you've ever ridden an Interceptor, you know that duck walking it around, squeezing it into a tight parking spot, or even just taking it off the side stand can take a bit of effort. Do that often enough and it can get tiring, at least for a vertically challenged old guy like me. That's why the new Gold Star really caught my attention. It feels surprisingly light and easy to handle. In fact, it's hard to believe it's a 213kg motorcycle. Here's another thing that might seem minor, but I really appreciated it. The rider's foot pegs are positioned a bit farther away from the passenger's pegs. That means your passenger's feet aren't constantly bumping into yours. Sounds small, but it makes a big difference on longer rides. The torque was exactly what I was hoping for. There's plenty of pull for overtaking, even with a passenger. Twist the throttle in pretty much any gear, and the bike just pulls. At low speeds, from standstill to around 5 kilometers per hour, the handlebar is also twitchy. But the rear preload looks easier to adjust on this bike than on the Victorino to reduce the twitchiness. As for top speed, I wasn't about to test that on Tomas Morato, for obvious reasons. So instead, I looked at what other riders have achieved. This rider managed to hit around 170 kilometers per hour. Considering that Philippine expressways have a maximum speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour, I'd say that's more than enough performance for real-world riding, even with a passenger. Mahindra Group isn't a small startup. It's one of India's largest multinational conglomerates, with operations in more than 100 countries, over 300,000 employees, and businesses spanning everything from automotive manufacturing to aerospace and agriculture. In other words, the company behind BSA isn't likely to disappear anytime soon. Whether local dealers continue carrying the bike is a different story, but Mahindra itself isn't going anywhere. If you judge it for what it actually is, a retro-inspired classic motorcycle designed for everyday riding, yet with enough power when you need it, it's an impressive package. I think the criticism aimed at the new Gold Star isn't really about the motorcycle itself. They're about what people think a Gold Star should be. If you enjoy this kind of motorcycle content, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me keep making more videos like this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Ride safe and God bless.